Hey, this is Brother Charlie from Old Path Baptist Church, Adkins, San Antonio, Texas. Just want to make a little video. A lot of people ask me in church, how do you do all this soul winning coordinating for, I do it on Sundays, and I did the recent mega marathon and picked out where we were going to go in the streets and signed everything, and I've been doing that for almost 2 years on Sundays for the soul winning, and I get some help from Brother Curtis and other people in church too. I just want to show people how I do it, how I pick places to go, and how I coordinate a lot of this, and maybe it'll help somebody out there who doesn't know how to go about coordinating. And our groups have been getting larger and larger. Our church is growing, and I've learned quite a few things, and I'm still learning a lot of stuff. And by no means is it perfect how I do it, but just want to show some people how I do it. First, we uh, pick an area. Basically, this is the area we're in right now. We're almost done. We have about 9 or 10 streets left. And for the month of March, we won 81 souls in this area so far. And that's not the total for the area, but just for last month, we've been doing this area. It's about the largest area we've done, a little over 3 months now. We're almost done, but we did win 81 souls in this area last month. In 4 weeks, that's 20 souls a week. That's pretty good. And basically, I'm on Google Earth, as you can see, and I pick an area. I've learned to pick an area that's neat with major highways if you can get them, major roads and streets I like to use as the borders if I can, because you don't want cut off streets, which can be kind of hard to assign because you have to give people sections of streets and tell them to stop here and don't go past this point. I've learned that that's a real pain to do. Basically, the area we're doing here now goes from here all the way around these edges here and ends right around this chestnut ash right there. And I'll show you a picture of this whole area of what we're working on and how I go about. First, you draw out the area, circle around what area you want to, is your mission, your target goal to complete. And I've done that. I'll show you that here. Basically, that's the area I just showed you on Google Earth. And then I cut them into sections, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections in this case. And section 1 we completed in like 2 weeks, so I didn't do a whole lot. I did have a zoom level of this before, but I got rid of it because we finished it so quickly. I went ahead and tossed it so I wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. So I just have these. They're numbered so I can create zoom levels for them, and I'll show you those. Basically, that's your 5 right there that you see over there. That's that section. And all those highlighted areas are streets we've completed. Some we haven't completed yet. Like I said, there's 9 or 10 areas, streets left only now. And as you can see, the streets are named, most of them at the zoom level, but there's still a lot that aren't named. So, what do we do in those situations? Well, that's where it gets to be a little tricky sometimes, because you can only get so many street names on a screen when you zoom in on Google Earth. So I try to get as many streets as I can when I zoom in before I take the picture and cut it out. And whatever ones are missing, unfortunately, to get those, what I'll have to do is look at a street near the ones missing, like Morning Grove, or would be one I'd look for close to this here. And I basically go to the internet and I'll type in the street name that I came close to, the one that I'm looking for here, pick one close, and the Google Net here will show you a little map right here, and just open map, and I use that on the internet, and I'll zoom in, and this shows you all the streets. I think it's Bing Maps or something using this street map box. Yeah. And it's more current than Google Earth. I found Google Earth will have some outdated stuff sometimes, so this satellite shot helps me find the streets that aren't named so I can assign them, and just as I go, we'll fill those in. But really important, I found out, to when you pick an area to go to, that you have nice borders that are nice and neat so that you can go to the map later at your church, at your your big map, and you're able to easily find it once you're on the big map at church and circle out the area that you completed. So, and when you're doing that, you'll be able to have a easy to find borders that you can, color in that you completed. We're on a mission to all of San Antonio or greater San Antonio area maybe, and trying to eventually, no matter how many years it takes, to get every door knocked in San Antonio and preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. And sorry, know how that popped in there. Our pastor there. And so, yeah, so these are all the streets as people, I assign the streets out, and we have papers. Brother Curtis has designed those, and we make lots of copy of those, and I'll show you that here if I could find it. But just, yeah, here's the papers, and so it has the name of the person, the street they're going to. They report back to me. Everyone has my number, and they text me while I'm soul winning. I will carry these papers with me with empty streets to assign. So if anybody needs another street, I give them their street, and they get going. People report their salvations, and last door knock, first door knock's written down here. And I like to put on the streets whether they're cul-de-sacs or if it's a super long street, and whether it's a small street, if it's a normal size street, I'll just leave it blank like this one. And that helps me to assign streets to large groups, small groups, or someone who says they're just in a hurry and they're only going to soul win about 45 minutes today. That way I have a nice mixture of different things and I try to keep the streets together. So if someone calls in from this one and they want another street, I like to write them where the streets surround it are close together so they don't have to drive far. Lots of little things you learn as you go along the way here with that. And here you see basically as people text me, I write down their salvations, we collect those, I put the zip codes with them so I can have a monthly report and know how many in the end we got saved from the entire area I picked. And as you can see there, that zip code there for the entire area I picked before, we had 185 saved, praise God. And I print this out, the big map. That's where when I'm complete with the whole thing, we'll go to the big map and be able to fill that in. And there's what a blank sheet looks like, how we use it to assign streets. And this is an older area we completed in the Glen, I believe, there. And you can see how a lot of the streets, Curtis actually bordered this one off nicely. He picked, super long streets so we can easily fill it in on the map for the borders, and no houses along this street and stuff like that. That makes it easy to find on the map and fill in our area that we completed. But we want to try to avoid these cut-off streets and giving people sections of streets. It gets way too confusing. As you can see, I made that mistake with an older place we went here and learned. This is a highly congested area near downtown, and all the borders, as you can see, are just parts of streets. And I ran into a lot of problems assigning streets as far as this one goes, and I learned my lesson from that. I really wish I'd have picked a bigger area or just used this highway as one of the borders. That was a big mistake. I should have never done that. That's one of the things I've learned as I've gone along here. Other than that, get back to this here. So yeah, you have the numbers of the areas. You pick one large area, divide it up, and then you have your zoom level so you can actually see the street names more. I don't fill in this with highlighting as streets are completed because the zoom levels are easier to navigate to do that. So as people text me week after week of what they completed, I go back on here and I have their names and I mark them off on the paper as I go, and as long as it takes. This area ABCD has taken a good month and a half so far, and pastor's almost completed that. And as you can see, this street wasn't listed here on the zoom level, no names there, so of course I had to go to the internet. I found them and I wrote them in right there. And this is just the default Windows 10 photo viewer here. It lets you draw, which is really cool, and save over it. I highlight all the streets as we go, and yeah, and I was going to show you where we did the marathon here, just a little bit of that, and we're probably going to go back there because we didn't really get a whole lot of the streets. Like I didn't think I thought we would do more than that, but then again, it was receptive. That's what I didn't factor in, that we probably wouldn't do that many, because the more receptive it is, of course, the longer it's going to take to complete the area. And I have a picture of that somewhere. But I put the highlight here. You can see little highlights. That means that I went on the map on the computer and I highlighted off the street. If I just have an X through it, I know that they completed it, and I put complete. But until I have that highlighted circle there, I know I haven't gone to the map and highlighted off the street that it was complete. So that's just something I do. There's actually a method to all the chaos. And of course, this is where we had our mega marathon here. People can see I picked these long major roads, major streets as borders here. This is the whole Sunrise area that we were trying to tackle. And what I'll do with this is the same as on the other thing. I'll divide this up probably into 3 or 4 and number them 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'll go back to Google Earth and I'll zoom in on those and make cutout pictures so I can get more street names. But again, I won't get all of them. As you zoom in, then you lose ones around it. So you got to do the best you can, get a nice zoom level that shows the most, and then you're going to have to go back to the internet to find the few missing ones. And that's it for the most part. It's what we do every week. It's going back and forth, and it's fun. It's in the beginning, it's kind of hectic and a little stressful, but I've gotten really, as we've gone along, it's become really easy. I enjoy it, and I wouldn't, I couldn't imagine not doing it. It's very rewarding to send people out and see them win so many people to the Lord, and knowing you're a big part of that. Just one other thing I wanted to add that can be an issue to watch out for when doing this too is, so you can see here in this Iron Mill Creek, this street, it looks on the surface to be a really long street. And I still make this mistake sometimes when I'm in a hurry, but it looks like a really, really long street. And, especially if you use the internet map and you look at this and wow, Iron Mill Creek, that's super long. You may think I may need to assign 2, 3 groups to that street to knock it out in one day, or one group at either side work their way to the middle, or 2 groups at each side have done that. 2 groups at each end and work their way to the middle is a good strategy for really congested streets with a lot of homes, a lot of doors to knock. But it's kind of misleading sometimes, because that's why Google Earth is pretty important, is you can actually see the houses on Google Earth. You zoom in And as you can see, like this street, it's kind of a poor example because there's a lot right here. But you can see only here are their houses on the other side. These are not. You got to be careful. There's no houses here. There's like just these houses here. So there's really not a whole lot of doors to knock, even though it's a super long street. And yes, I've assigned some streets where there's been no doors to knock before, and I've been called back. And so those are some of the things to look out for when doing this. Is you really need to kind of go to Google Earth. I mean, Google Earth's a pretty big blessing when it comes to that, because we can't drive out and recon every street in these large areas. So, but Google Earth and Google has done that for us for the most part. There's some mistakes, but yeah, so sometimes it can look like a long street, but then there not be hardly any houses or zero houses sometimes if it's just a main entry street through a lot of subdivisions. I've noticed that there'll be not many houses at all to knock. It'll look like it on the map sometimes too, but you got to be careful because they may be facing the other way. Just want to throw that in. God bless. Have a good day.